Let's see how the markets are doing and then get analysis coming up here in just a moment. First of all, we go to the big board here, and these numbers are provided by bar chart. December corn is up a half at 369. March is unchanged, and the May is down a half at 384. So a very quiet corn trade here today. November soybeans got all the way up to 10.08 3/4. We're right at $10.75 at this point in time. We are up 5 cents. And then over here in the March contract, we're up 6 pennies at 10.02 3/4. But I do want to point out here, particularly for our radio audience, that November, January, March, and May, our front four contracts here, are all above, right at or above $10 a bushel. On the soybean meal market here today, we are down 80 cents at $317.60 a ton. Soybean oil is measured in per hundredweight and $33.74. We are up 61 cents there. In the wheat market, Chicago wheat for December up 2 3/4. The new crop July is up 2 pennies. It's at $5.59. July new crop Kansas City wheat is up 1 3/4 at $4.97 3/4. New crop July Minneapolis wheat is up a penny at $5.61 1/2. And cotton is measured in cents per pound, and we're up 1 penny, 1.86 cents per pound at 66.67. All right, let's go to the telephone here, and we're being joined by Chris Swift. Chris, good to talk to you today. Chris Swift is with Swift Trading Company in Nashville.
Good morning, John.
What do you think of, good morning. What do you think of this grain market here this morning after last week's report and this morning's export sales numbers?
Well, I think the export numbers have just been fantastic. But the one thing that I noted after last night's trade at the higher price, that $10 beans have not been seen for a very long time, and we've still got a big crop to market out there. And as we know, higher prices tend to curb demand. So I have to look at this as just a really good opportunity to market some inventory.
You know, you make a good point, and Janet and I dug back into the archives here this morning. February 26th of 2018, we got all the way up to $10.71. And then if you want to take it on back, you could go all the way back to July 16th of 2012. We all remember what 2012 brought us. We were at $17.58. But I talked to some producers over the weekend. We were talking about this $10 mark here. And one of the things that they were telling me, that $10 looks pretty good, and you can almost make that work and make that come out in black ink.
Absolutely. And then with the corn market and everything that I have seen now, it looks like corn harvest is going very well in the south and will continue to move north. And the yields have been phenomenal for everything I've heard so far.
So far, back in southwest Kansas, it is just north of the Oklahoma border there. I do also want to talk about wheat, because there were some folks probably going to start drilling some wheat later on this week. Wheat's a little bit stronger here today as well.
It has been, and that should encourage a good wheat crop this year, but I'm not real sure how dry it is. If some of the areas I know that we tend to plant a lot of wheat in have been in dry areas as well, so I'm going to be anxious to see how much wheat they do get sowed out there right now.
That's a good point. Well, we'll be back in just a moment, and we'll get the latest on the livestock trade and get Chris Swift's thoughts on that as well, right here on RFD TV and Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. October sugar down 14 cents here this morning, now under $12. Now let's move on over here to the livestock trade. We started out with a higher trend in the cattle market, and this is price per hundredweight, by the way. October live cattle now up $1.27 at 106.80. December up 132 at 111.22, and the rest of those contracts all on the higher side. Now on to the feeder cattle market we go, and we've got October up 172 at 142.30, November up 137 at 142.70, and the January at 140.75. That's up $1.62. In the hog complex this morning, what started out with weakness has now firmed. October up 12 at 66.70, February up 15, April up 20. The only contract that's still lower is that December contract. It's down 57. What does that tell us here, Chris?
Well, after a big run-up last week, and of course we know that they found another hog in Germany last week with the African swine fever. That kind of led people to believe that exports would slow going to China, and maybe the U.S. pick up on some of that. And it does sound great right off the front, but we have seen instances like this before, and China has still yet to come in and be a major pork buyer the way that the U.S. believes that they should be. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt. We opened sharply higher this morning. We've been negative on the day for most of the day, and like I say, we're just now getting back plus on the day. So I think it's got a lot of it already factored into it.
What about this live cattle market here continuing to gain strength after last week? It was kind of weakness, and the bears were really telling a big story.
Yeah, they are, and cash cattle sale, I think we ended up around 102 last week, and I don't know that we'll get any better this week. I know that we've got a large on-feed number here in September. We have plenty inventory to work with, and with the market still in a pretty good downtrend right now, I have to believe that this is just a little rally in a bear market.
Ooh, interesting. Well, what about feeder cattle? Same story here then, you think?
Yeah, the same story. The feeder cattle market is probably the most interesting because we've lost all the bases. We had been carrying a significant negative basis for months on end, and then we got positive, and now we're just kind of flipping back and forth between positive and negative, and that doesn't really give anybody out into the future much leverage.
All right. Chris, thank you very much. We'll talk again very, very soon. Chris Swift here with Swift Trading. Over in the crude oil market, we're watching this closely with the development of that storm there in the Gulf that Christina was talking about a little bit ago. October crude oil unchanged on the 37.33 a barrel. Janet?
All right. Thank you,